You've got Jody McDonald, John McMullen, and the voice of the Eagles, en Espanol, Rickie Ricardo. Good enough to jump in with us, get up early down in his Florida state, and hop on with us here on Birds 365. How are your holidays, Mr. Ricardo?
Holidays were great. Jody, the AEW show, of which I attended last night, did not finish until after midnight. So I'm actually waking up in the middle of the night for you guys, but I would only do it for you two, for Mac and Mac. But it was an outstanding AEW show last night. I am much impressed.
Which I need to interrupt you. Don't tell me who won the final match, because I'll tell you this: the taping time on my DVR ran out, so I don't know how the final match it ended. It was still ongoing because, as you said, it ran long. And the stupid announcer always said, "We'll stay past the top of the hour." Unless, of course, you got somebody recording it and it checks out at the top of the hour. Then you're screwed.
Oh, that's a big problem.
Which is exactly where I was at last night.
Yeah, well, Tony Schiavone is that quote-unquote stupid announcer, and I will not tell you what happened in the Maxwell Jacob Friedman match.
I'll do the on-demand thing.
I know what happened.
Don't tell me. I don't want to know.
I'm not going to tell you, Jody. But yeah, I tapped out. And now, was Tony your friend? Is that your connection, Tony? Because he's done some baseball stuff.
Schiavone? I've known Schiavone for 40 years.
Yeah, there we go.
When I did back when I did WCW in Espanol, we became tight. You're talking about a good 35, 40 years ago.
Nice. Yeah, the great Tony. You used to do Braves.
That wasn't, and that, by the way, that wasn't the last match because they taped the Friday night show.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
After that, so that's what I'm saying. We were there till after midnight.
Thank you for getting up early with us, Ricky. Appreciate that.
Anytime, boys.
All right, here's where I want to start with you, because John and I have only done one show this week. The holidays have hit Birds 365 too. What kind of a grade would you give Jalen Hurts for his performance against the Giants the other night?
Well, that's a good question. In that particular game, I will give Jalen Hurts a C+, which is basically the grade that I'm giving him for the entire season. About a C+.
Yeah, see, I thought he was better than that.
I thought,
and I think that people have just passed over that fact. Didn't put the ball on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
The one pick he threw was because Dallas Goedert fell down. That's not his fault. And the throw had to be where it was, and it happened to be a pick six. But you're not banking on it being a potential pick six because you're not banking on Goedert falling down. He took care of the football. His one big mistake was not getting out of bounds on the last play before they have. But they ended up being okay with that because the Giants were foolish enough to take a stupid penalty. So I thought he played at least a B+ game.
I'll tell you why. When you watch the game from my vantage point, which is basically, John, you're there. It's basically the all 22, and then I go back with the little NFL Plus app, which the NFL was nice enough to give me that subscription. They give it to the broadcasters. There were 4 occasions in that game, 4 occasions where he tried to force the ball into either A.J. Brown or Devontae Smith or to Dallas Goedert, where he had other people wide open on the field. And I'm just not sure if all this hubbubaloo about let's try to get AJ involved, or let's try to get Devontae involved, or let's try to force the issue. Kenneth Gainwell on a wheel route was wide open with arms flailing on 3 different occasions when he's trying to force the ball on the other side of the field to a contented defended play on the other side to a wide receiver. So I just think that the decision-making process in total, from the beginning of the game to the end, this season, as compared to the Jalen Hurts that we saw last season, that didn't have all these clouds hanging over him, and let me get this guy the ball, or let me force this play, or let me try to thread this needle. I think he's leaving a lot of wide open receivers. There are lanes where he could run in. Now, he ran much better this past week. I will give you that. He had a little bit more explosiveness. His giddy up was a little bit better this week, but there have been wide open running lanes during the season. that he hasn't taken advantage of. I just think he's left a lot out on the field this year as compared to what I saw last year. And it's proven by when I go back and watch the All-22.
Yeah. Now I'm going to defend Jalen Hurts and agree with you at the same time.
All right.
The fact that I agree with you wholeheartedly, Ricky. He hasn't been as good this season as last season when it comes to decision making. But and Jody will know. Jody can tell you that one of the things, and Kenny Gainwell being open on wheel routes, a lot of times when the progression of the play is on the other side of the field, I always say these quarterbacks, they're not owls. You know, they can't play. So their design, the play call says, all right, it might be AJ, be Devontae being the 2. And then if they get all the way to 3 or 4, maybe you turn to the other side of the field and you can find somebody. By that point, though, defenders are probably going to react, and what looks wide open isn't really wide open because the defense understands where the progression is going. So they're not as concerned with the other side of the field. So I agree with your general thoughts, but you got to be very careful. I say all the fans because they constantly, because anybody, what you're talking about, NFL Plus, they give it to us. Anybody who's got $99 can also get it. And you have all these people taking screenshots of wide open receivers in every game, not just the Eagles game. But you got to be careful with that stuff because if you don't know where the progression is, now sometimes maybe the progression is on that side and Jalen should see it. But if it's on the other side of the field, he's not going to be able to see Kenny Gainwell on the wheel route. So partially, I agree with you. He hasn't been as good, but boy, you know, NFL Plus is in a lot of ways, there's unintended consequences and people looking at the all 22. And I can tell the coaches get frustrated because I talk to them all the time and it's not even the stinking progression. So it's part good, part bad. But as a whole, Jalen Hurts, I don't think has been as good as last season, but I still think he's been really good. I think there's, it's crazy the way people.
Well, and let's also be honest. His offensive line, as good as it is, and with the reputation that it has, I don't think the offensive line has been as good or as efficient as it was last season, which also will contribute to my downgrading the overall grade for Jalen this season. And maybe my standard. Remember, I have a certain standard of what is an ace in a starting rotation in baseball as compared to the man in the gray goatee, whose level for ace may be different than mine. So it's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other.
Yeah.
But in the overall scheme of things, I don't think he's been as good as he was last year. But I think I do agree with you, John, at the same time that there are other elements involved that have maybe dragged that grade down a little bit.
Yeah, Ricky's got about 7 aces in all of Major League Baseball.
I'm with Ricky.
Well, maybe Yamamoto. We'll see if Yamamoto joins that.
You're ready to put Yamamoto in, but not Aaron Nola.
No,
okay. Remember he said that, Philly fans.
When you wait to see.
When you call Ricky on WIP.
Yeah. I was by the way, real quick baseball thought. Daisuke Matsuzaka, I was turned on him in the gyro ball. I bought into that hype and I said, come on. All these guys come over from Japan. They make this stuff up and they're really good. Ohtani's phenomenal. But I mean, yeah, I got to wait and see because I remember you remember the gyro ball, Ricky?
Sure.
Where did that come? Where was that? I never saw it.
Yeah,
anyway.
It didn't quite pan out. Anyway, Ricky, although it makes for a less enthusiastic chant, will we hear from the Eagle fans on Sunday, run the ball effectively? Because you need to add the effectively. Just run the ball isn't quite enough. But this past week, they ran the ball and they ran it effectively, which means that offensive line, which you just referenced, did their job. Pass blocking and run blocking. I don't think they lived up to their own standard of the best in the National Football League. Can they get on a roll of running the ball effectively, starting last week against the Giants and going through the end of the season, wherever that may be?
yes, I do think they can run the ball. If I just sent you the my pregame prep, which is done by the great Dave Gerhardt. John, I know you know Dave.
Oh yeah, I'm addicted to Dave's notes, by the way.
Well, I just sent. I don't have your email. I just sent it to Jody. Jody can forward it to you. It's fantastic. You know, this line has 22. This is a number that really stuck out to me. 22 false start penalties this season, which is just for this particular line. If you tell me the New York Jets or I don't know, Washington Commanders, but for this group to have 22 false start penalties this year, I think is a number that really sticks out to me. But I agree. Just the mere fact of running the football is one thing. Running it effectively and using Swift, getting Gainwell, you know, the ultimate giant killer is Boston Scott. They didn't get him involved in anything other than running into Zacchaeus head first in a head first collision on a kickoff, for Pete's sake. But and I was the crowd that was right below me started that whole chant of run the ball, and it got really loud towards the end of the game. But no, I agree. It's not just running the football; it's running it effectively, and they were able to do it last week without, or this past Sunday without Dickerson, or Monday, whatever it was.
By the way, Jalen Hurts with the rare clapback against the fans, he was like, "Yeah, you're not supposed to make noise when the offense has the football," which he's 100% correct. Now, if you look at this, what's ironic to me about this offense, they're number 8 overall, Ricky, which is pretty good. They're far better rushing the ball than passing the ball. Number 6 overall rushing the ball. Number 7 in points per game. Number 2 in third down offense. Number 1 in fourth down offense. Number 10 in red zone offense. They're basically top 10 in everything. What they're not top 10 in is turnover ratio.
Yes.
If they didn't turn the football over, if they were taking care of the football, would we even have any of these narratives about this offense is struggling and you got to change play callers and all this? It's pretty good when you compare it to the rest of the teams in the NFL. And isn't that what you should do? That's the context of it.
The raw numbers, you're right, John. The fact of the matter is that they don't create turnovers. Okay, so when the turnover ratio is so one-sided, because this team, this defense, isn't creating turnovers. So in your mind's eye, you can kind of balance it out if you're taking the ball away from the other side a little bit because it sticks in your head. But the turnovers seem to be so one-sided. They all seem to be, eagle turnovers, and this defense hasn't been turning over. And the fact that they can't get off the field on third down, I mean, they're one of the worst, if not the worst. I think they went into last week's game as
they were the worst. They're up to number. I gotta look it up. They're better. Matt Patricia, baby. They're number 30 now. Number 30.
Oh, it went from 32 to 30 as far as getting off the field on third down. So there's a lot of little things that stick into in the back of your mind. But I agree with you. The offense. I don't think the offense was the culprit so much in the 3-game losing streak, and the fact that they're continuing to win games. I said this after the Buffalo game when I went on WIP right after the post-game show. I asked the question, is this sustainable? And what I meant by that was, could this team continue winning games against quality opponents the way they were doing it? Okay, by the skin of their teeth, by a play here, a play there, going the wrong way for the opponent. Valdez-Scantling, dropping a pass. Gabe Davis going one way, and the quarterback throwing it the other way for the Buffalo Bills. Was this sustainable? And obviously the answer was no. They go on that 3-game losing streak, and to your point, I don't think the offense was as much at fault during that 3-game losing streak as the defensive side of the ball was. So, in essence, to get back to your original question, the offense, although Jalen has not been, and I know I'm a hard grader, so I'll go from that C+ to a B-, which is a little bit better anyway. But I think for some of the things that have brought much of the chagrin to the Eagle fan base lately, I think I'd have to lean a little bit more towards what happened on the defensive side than even on the offensive side of the ball.
All right. One thing, I'll side with the fans on this one. Jalen, toughen up. Don't make noise while we got the ball. Come on. You got to play all those games on the road. You got to put up a little noise when your team's got the ball. I'm not coming down on the fans.
No, of course not. And they ask for noise. They plead for noise when the other team has the football. So,
well, yeah, that's wonderful. Now I'm gonna. Hey, Philadelphia's supposed to be a smart fan base. You're supposed to make noise for the other offense, not your own offense.
So you're supposed to sit on your hands and be a church mouse when the Eagles have
Hey,
the ball?
If you want to call yourself a smart fan base, you can make all the noise you want, but when that clock hits 15 and you let the offense do what they need to do, that's just the way it is.
You and I will disagree on this one.
Yeah,
you pay, you go in, you do whatever the hell you want, and if you're a little loud, you got to be able to suck it up and get that done.
And as lubricated,
you got to do it on the road. You can't do it at home. Come on.
Well, those are two different discussions. You can do whatever you want. I'm not saying you can't. I'm saying if you want to call yourself a smart,
Jalen's saying they can't.
I'm saying if you want to call yourself a smart fan base and you want to help your team, help your team. That's all I'm saying.
Well, as lubricated as that fan base can get prior to the game, and once they get in that building, they're ready to get a good percentage of that fan base is well lubricated from that parking lot. I don't know if they can discern
you got that. Hey,
from the other.
If you'll notice, guys, the Eagles will use silent counts at home on occasion. Not usually it's not for the noise, but it's usually when they're running tempo. But they will use the silent count at home. And you don't want to be the LA Chargers where you have to use the silent count at home because the other team is playing a home game.
Now, can I ask you guys? Can I ask you guys a question?
Go.
Sure.
Okay, this came up during my broadcast on several occasions here, where my partner and I were looking at certain formations, and I'll take you back to the Manning cast of a couple of weeks ago when Christian McCaffrey was on, and McCaffrey was basically saying, well, here, the Eagles are in this formation, they're going to do this, or the Eagles are in this formation and they're going to do that. I guess it was during the Seattle game. Has this offense, and I'm a broadcaster, I'm not a football analyst. You guys are more of a football analyst than I am. But if me and my partner can sit there and say, well, in this formation, the Eagles are going to do this, have they become a little predictable?
Go ahead, Jody.
Okay. Yeah. Yes. In a word, yes. I think they have. Is it the worst thing that's ever happened? No. I think Christian McCaffrey's a really smart guy, and if he did a little film work, he could probably hit 9 out of every 10 plays with every team in the National Football League. So are the Eagles by themselves in that thing? No. That's the National Football League, but there are probably some teams that you'd only hit 6 out of 10 because they're that good at disguising. They have that much optionality built into their offense. I think there are other teams that work harder at it than the Eagles do. Are the Eagles the worst in the National Football League because Christian McCaffrey got a bunch on a Monday night podcast? No, I'm not going there. But is it a tough league to have a disguised play every time you come up to the line of scrimmage? Yeah, it is. It just they don't have enough hours in the week to be able to prepare to what's Gannon's favorite phrase? The whatever of oh shoot, I forget the phrase.
The illusion of complexity.
There it is. Thank you very much, John McMullen. They don't have it, and nobody else in the National Football League has it. Some have a slightly higher percentage than the Eagles, but the Eagles don't have it either.
That's actually
if you kept them guessing every single play. Nobody in the NFL does that.
I'm gonna give Sean McVay credit for that one. That's a Sean McVay.
Right.
But
I know you.
I'm sure he stole it from somebody as well.
McVay, right,
I'm sure McVay stole it from somebody as well. But he's the first one I heard it from. But so I'll give him credit. But I agree with Jody. Christian McCaffrey can call out every 9 plays. Tony Romo used to do it in the booth.
All the time.
There was Ricky. There was a famous NFL Films clip on when Luke Kuechly, one of the great linebackers of his generation, he's calling out every play. He knew every single play. I guarantee in that Seattle game that Christian was doing, I guarantee you Bobby Wagner knew every single play. A lot of these guys know what's coming. It's about execution. Jimmy Johnson wrote in his book, when the Cowboys were having their run, he had 3 running plays with Emmitt Smith in that offensive line. So, all right, go stop it. You know what's coming. It's like the Eagles in the push tush. Everybody knows that's predictable. Stop it. Yeah, so I think that Christian McCaffrey's so smart. He knows and he played the Eagles, obviously, so he did the film work. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't worry about that even a little bit, because there's a bunch of players that know what's going on just from formations and things like that.
All right, question answered. Very good.
All right, let me ask you this one, Mr. Ricardo.
Mm-hmm.
We know that once again this week, Dallas Goedert, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith will be the 3 main targets of the Philadelphia Eagles passing game. Who should be the 4th target, which isn't going to be a lot, but to just draw the line at 3, we saw the one game where those were the only 3 guys who got the ball thrown their way, and afterwards it jumped off the stat page. Really? You didn't target one other player? So you need to go a little past 3. Not a lot, not going to be a balance. It's never going to happen. They're going to be the 3 main targets. Who do you think should be the 4th guy this week?
Well, this past week we saw Britton Covey get targeted on a couple of occasions and made his. I think that was his first ever catch. John, am I right?
Yeah.
All right.
And they gave him 1 snap and they didn't go back to it. I'm like, it worked.
It worked.
Yeah.
Calcaterra had a couple of catches.
That's going to be my out of the box answer. I'm like, I think Grant Calcaterra is a good receiver. I think they should give him more.
I'm going to go Zacchaeus. He's one of the guys that on occasion might be that 3rd or 4th option or 3rd or 4th read for Jalen Hurts on a play, and he gets open and maybe isn't the first choice and doesn't get the target. But Zacchaeus is a good route runner, especially in the red zone. So for the sake of answering the question, Jody, I think Zacchaeus is a guy that could surprise you here in these last couple of weeks.
I'm okay with either Calcaterra or Zacchaeus.
Yeah,
as long as it's not Quez. Don't think it's going to be Julio. Man,
it will not be Quez. That much I can tell you.
How about Albert Okwuegbunam?
Well, you know what we call him? Everybody calls him Albert O.
Oh,
right?
Albert O.
Yeah.
So on the Spanish broadcast, we just make it very simple. Alberto.
There you go.
Nice.
Works even better. Very good.
Yeah. Albert will not be dressing. I can pretty much guarantee that, along with Rashad Penny. So yeah, I you know what, the receivers, I've seen enough of the receivers. I don't know if Julio has anything left. Quez is Quez. Alameda does some nice things occasionally, but I don't see the consistency. I think Calcaterra has the potential to be a good pass receiving tight end. I'm like, and remember, with this offense, it's going to be 3 targets, something like that. But I think they should try to get him involved a little bit more. But yeah, it's half dozen, and it's probably going to be the running backs, either DeAndre or Kenny Gainwell
or Gainwell. You're right.
Yeah, but then again, this past week, how many times did they throw it to either of the running backs? Oh, they didn't. It isn't part of their offense. It's not a big part, even though my guy Ricky here saw Gainwell open on a wheel route on the other side of the field with the quarterback never got a look. They don't do it. They don't do it. Jalen doesn't do it. I don't think all of a sudden in the last game of the regular season, it's going to become a focal point of their offense. If you're a throw it to Gainwell.
Oh, definitely not a focal point. I'm just saying the occasional. And Kenny had a pretty good game receiving against the Giants. I forget what he had. I'll look it up real quick.
He did have 3 catches. You're right.
Yeah, 3 for 38. It wasn't bad. Bad.
Ricky, what scares you more going into this game against the Cardinals? Kyler Murray throwing the football or Kyler Murray running the football?
Kyler Murray running the football. I watched a couple of nights ago. I sat down and watched the Cardinals-Bears game. The Bears came into that game on Sunday. I think it was on Sunday, right? This whole Sunday-Monday thing really got me thrown off.
Mm-hmm.
But Kyler Murray against a very good Bears defense, which was near the top or at the top of the league going into that game. Now, they ended up winning the game, and the Cardinals only scored 16 points. But I tell you what, although they could only cash in for 16 points, Kyler Murray had a heck of a game. If he had any semblance of receivers other than Greg Dortch.
Greg Dortch, baby.
And the tight end, McBride, if he had anybody to throw the football to, this might be a quasi-dangerous offense. But Kyler Murray has got an escapability, ability to get out of the pocket and get away from would-be tacklers. Unlike maybe Lamar, I can count on one hand the guys that can run around and escape tackles as well as Kyler Murray does. And I'm not sure the Eagles have the kind of speed or the kind of defenders that can stop him. So to your point, Jody, I'm not as much concerned about him throwing the ball because he really doesn't have too many weapons at his disposal. But when he takes off and starts running the football, he can make the defense look like they're in a rat maze. He is really, really good at that.
Yeah. Matt Patricia was talking about that yesterday, Ricky, about how he gets up to top speed so quickly. He just kind of destroys pursuit angles. At RR_Ricardo FAN. That is Rickie Ricardo on X, Twitter, voice of the Eagles in Espanol, as Jody says. Last one for me is Matt Patricia. The defense has gotten better, Ricky. Now
it has.
It helps when you're playing Drew Lock and Tommy DeVito instead of Josh Allen and Brock Purdy and the 49ers, and Dallas at home where they average 40 points a game. Part of it is just natural. You're going to get a little bit of a bump and be more successful, and that will likely continue against Arizona, as you mentioned, their issues, and the Giants again. Are you believing in Matt Patricia?
I was starting to get to that point until I watched Jackson Smith and Jigma run right by Bradbury on that Monday night, which that play and that game may come back to bite the Eagles' keister unlike anything else for the remainder of this season. Because with that 49er loss, which I didn't pick, okay, I got to be honest with you, I thought the Niners would run right through the Ravens. But with that Raven victory over San Francisco, which gets them to 4 defeats and, ties the record up, but obviously the tiebreaker goes to San Francisco. But if that one play, if we can sit here in a few weeks and look back and say, wow, that play may be the one that changed the course of this season and might be the difference between the Eagles being the number 1 overall seed and being 2 or 3, depending on what Detroit and Dallas do. I think the Eagles will win both these games. But we've got to cheer for Dallas this week, which to Eagle fans is nails on a blackboard. It's almost poisonous or blasphemous to say. But I thought the defense played much better. Granted, it was Locke, as you said, against Seattle. Granted, it was DeVito who gets benched halfway through this game. No more Cutlets. Aaron Judge wants his money back from buying him dinner a couple of nights ago in New York. So what restaurant? Do we know, Jody? Where the heck were they?
I have no idea.
Aaron Judge picks up the tab for Pete's sake?
Well, I hope Aaron picked up the tab. I mean, come on.
He's got a couple more bucks than Tommy Cutler.
Yeah, but no, to your point, John, I think the defense, and especially this week, we had no linebackers, had no Nick Morrow on the field.
Nick's coming back. Zach's coming back. Brandon Graham just plowed through all the Sirianni subterfuge.
Yeah, I want to see. I'm interested to see how the defense reacts this week with a legitimate guy that you have to game plan against in Kyler Murray. They're not the best team, the Cardinals. They're not going to beat the Eagles, but to judge specifically how the defense is improving against a guy like Murray and James Conner, and they've got some outlets to go to there. The Cardinals do, I think, more than what the Giants have. then it's interesting to me to see how they react this week. And I could much better answer that question after Sunday 1 o'clock against a guy like Murray. But no, I do agree that under Patricia for these last couple of weeks, at least on the surface, they look better.
All right, Ricky, here's my last one.
All right.
And I'll go a little bit more tip of the spear than John just did, called it Sirianni subterfuge. I'll go with lying because Sirianni lied.
Competitive advantage, Jody.
Screw competitive advantage. Nick Sirianni said after the game that maybe he needs to be a little bit more emotionally constrained. That he's shown a little too much on the sidelines. Maybe it was tied to the shouting match that he got in with Hassan Reddick, but he capsulized himself as a guy who's got to be a little bit more careful, a little bit more under control. Is he lying to himself? Is he lying to us? Will he actually try and change going into this week? If you believe that Sirianni, and I do, has got to be a little bit more controlled. This is a big week for you, not only in the standings, but John and Jeff Kerr and who else did we have on Monday? Both of our guests are
Andrew DeCecco.
Andrew DeCecco said after the game in the locker room, you couldn't tell that the Eagles won, that there was no joy involved, that their emotions were like, yeah, but. That's not good at this stage of the season, Ricky. They need to be upbeat. They need to believe in themselves. They got to be up. And they're taking their cue from their coach. And their coach is admitting, yeah, maybe I'm a little bit too emotional. Is Sirianni the right guy this week to set the right mindset and the right tempo in this locker room for these last 2 games of the season?
Gentlemen, of all the things that I will be watching Nick Sirianni for this week, it's not so much the adjustment or game plan on offense or defense. It will be exactly that, Jody McDonald. I want to see how he handles the emotion and how he takes back control of his football team. The coordinators, they'll make adjustments. They'll do the little intricacies of game planning against this particular football team. But the same way those players felt, the same way that those reporters you just mentioned described the locker room, I felt the exact same way as I walked out of Lincoln Financial Field and went to the radio station on Monday evening. It was a win that felt like a loss. Now, here's the problem. Short of maybe the Tampa Bay game and the Miami game this year, short of those two, I have felt that way the majority of this particular season, even though we have a record of 11 up and 4 down. I have yet to walk out of that stadium this year. And it could have been the Dolphin game that, to me, I guess was the most complete victory of the season so far this year. I felt that way to an extent all year long. So this whole notion of, well, they haven't played their best game yet, blah, 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 that all falls back on the coach. And if you had just arrived from, I don't know, Ecuador somewhere, and you didn't know one thing or the other, and you were asked who won this game on Monday evening, and you didn't know the difference, you'd probably be perplexed as who the winners were coming off the field. So yeah. I want to see how Sirianni regains control of this team and steers his ship back in a more positive direction starting this week and then going to the Meadowlands the following week. That, to me, is more of an intriguing thing to watch for this week than anything else. Does it have anything to do with Dom? Was Dom a guy that might
controlled Nick Sirianni? I've heard that theory.
Well, I've heard that too. That is this a big Dom thing that there's nobody to remind him?
Finally won a game. They hadn't won a game without Dom on the sideline, so they broke that streak. We'll see if that continue. I've heard that before with Tom.
Wait, time out, Philadelphia. You're both doing this tongue in cheek, right?
No. Yeah, if you think about Sean McVay, I talked about Sean. Remember, he had the get back coach. Everybody was in there. That was Ted Rath, by the way, works for the Eagles now. He had the get back. Sean McVay was so into the game, he would walk onto the field. And Ted Rath, you never saw it, would pull him back, and he'd have to keep him in the box. These guys get too emotional. Now, I don't think it's that to
No, I
that
don't think
degree
it's tongue
with
firmly
Tom.
planted in cheek for me. But
Yeah.
I want to see some more Pete Carroll per se in Nick Sirianni this week. Than what we've seen the last couple of weeks. I want to see emotion from my head coach, but I want to watch him.
I want a calm, rational guy in big spots. I'd rather have a calm, rational presence. Now, other people want the energy and want the fired up guy. So it kind of depends on, I just think of it in life in general. If you're emotional, you're probably not going to make the best decision. That's how I look at it.
Yeah, but the best of the best is upside emotion when things are good, calm and rational when things are going bad. If you can pull that off, then that's the best of both worlds. It's not necessarily easy to do.
Is there a guy that embodies that over the years that sticks out in our minds? Is it Parcells?
Most of them, Bill's a good one. Bill's a good one. Most of them are like Andy or Bill, and they're calm and, pretty much rational most of the time. But Bill's a good one. Bill would get fired up.
Andy's sideline started going off the rails a little bit this past Monday also.
Everybody. If you coach as much as those two guys, Andy and Bill Belichick, you're going to have bad seasons. You're going to have bad. I mean, people, they didn't become bad coaches overnight. It's a cyclical thing. Tom Brady ruined the NFL for people judging, because they won 6 Super Bowls. Like, it's easy. You're seeing how difficult it is to get back to the Super Bowl here. The Eagles have the best record in the NFC, tied for the best record in the NFC. Everybody thinks they're having a crappy season. It's hard. It's hard. And Tom Brady kind of skewed the whole measuring stick for everybody, I think.
Yeah, he did. All right, Rickie Ricardo, thank you very much for coming on. All right, I got one more quickie for you.
Yeah, go ahead.
When you go to North Jersey for a game, when you go to MetLife, is there a Newark place you hit back to the old days? Before, after the game, you just got to go and get some food or something before you.
No.
My Sopranos joke.
I go to Ferry Street Barbecue. There is nothing, gentlemen. You got to go into Down Neck, the Brazilian/Portuguese neighborhood in Newark, which is basically right behind their version of Penn Station, or the train station.
Really? It's that close? Because I take the train in there all the time. Walking distance from the train station?
Walking distance from the train station, okay? There is a place, Jody, you got to go here. It's called Ferry Street Barbecue. It's just a couple of blocks behind the train station. What you get for your money there is unbelievable, okay? If you are a lover of grilled chicken, grilled steak, fresh salad, all the sides, everything at a very, very humble price, then you must take the walk over. It's only 3 blocks on Ferry Street.
Oh, nice.
Right on the corner. Is
that the opposite way of the Prudential Center then?
But it's 2 short blocks. Me and my buddies every winter, we'll do this at some point. We're Devils fans. We make the trip to we go first about 6 o'clock to Ferry Street Barbecue, spend the hour eating there, which is incredible. You walk out of there, you'll never want to eat again. And then we take the short walk over to the Prue, to the Rock, to watch a Devil hockey game. So I'm telling you, you're going to remember me when you go over here. It's called Ferry Street Barbecue, just a couple blocks. I guess that would be east of Penn Station in Down Neck, Newark, New Jersey. Portuguese/Brazilian style barbecue. Incredible food. Very, very, for under $25.
Nice.
You will walk out of there like you went to Peter Luger's.
Very nice. And oh, by the way, I'll wait for a WWE show. I don't need to see the Devils. Hell with the Devils. I'm sure Vince or Hunter will schedule a show in there at some point. That's when I'll do my.
AEW uses that. AEW
goes in there a lot. Yeah. They do pay-per-views in Newark.
Yeah.
Well, either way. Ricky, thanks, buddy. Appreciate you getting up early, specifically because you were out late last night. Didn't hit the Ferry Street barbecue, but that's okay. You'll live. We'll get you back up when the playoffs roll along. Thanks, buddy.
Happy New Year, everybody.
That is Rickie
You too,
Ricardo.
Ricky. Thanks.
Voice of the Eagles in Espanol here with us on Birds 365. I don't know why I thought of that, just because I know he's a Newark guy and he doesn't always get back up to North Jersey as much as he used to, specifically on the Jersey side. He goes into New York to do Yankee stuff, but Ferry Street Barbecue, I'm going to have to check that.
Penn Station, Newark. Yeah, easy. If you're going to the Prudential Center, you gotta take New Jersey Transit. Easy.
It's been a while since I've been there, but I used to be there twice a week, every week in the Penn Station over in New Jersey. And I never knew of the Ferry Street Barbecue. So I'm going to, if the circumstances fit, I'm going to have to check that out. All right. McMullen and McDonald coming back. Oh, for those of you who have been waiting, where is the voice of doom and gloom? The man, the myth, the legend himself. Bob Groats hasn't been with us in more than a month. It's absolutely been more than a month since Groats has been with us. And we kind of expect him to do a victory lap by James Bradbury. I'm going to have to eat some crow on that. I put Bradbury on a pedestal and he's come tumbling back down. Groats always stuck to, yeah, but he's not fast. He's slow. I don't know how he's doing it because he's slow. He's looking awfully slow these days. Well, not as bad this week as last week, but Bob Groats going to join us coming up in less than 15 minutes. So stay right here on Birds 365.